hope you got your shitting pants on.
'Cause you are about to shit your pants.
Here they come, yo. Here they come. Here they come, yo. Here they come. Here they come. This or that. 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 This is yours. You can get with this or you can get with that. You can get with this or you can get with that. You can get with this or you can get with that. I think you get with this because this is where it's at. You can get with this or you can get with that. You can get with this or you can get with that. You can get with this or you can get with that. I think you get with this because this is hot.
All right, everybody, welcome to The Big Picture. I am Michael Sargent here on All Western New York News and Radio. First thing I'm going to talk to you about today is the fact that I have an announcement to make on the home front. Michael Sargent Photography is teaming up with Douglas Gurr and his beautiful wife, Lori Gurr. They collectively own Looking Glass Media. And the nice part about all this is Doug is a very, very talented video person, and it's been an aspect that has been missing from my studio work for quite some time. So the other part of all this is his wife is a very talented hairdresser and makeup artist. She does a lot of local weddings. She does the makeup and hair for a lot of these people. So we got some good things going on, and I'm looking forward to what the future brings. All right. Next thing I want to touch base on is I want to talk to you about all this stuff with gun control. Okay. The mass shootings that seem to take place, they are tragic. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. It's sad that we live in a society in which people with mental illness are, in one way or another, able to obtain a firearm, and they go out and commit these heinous crimes. It's terrible. With that being said, there's something I want to point out with all this. President Barack Obama, while in office, has the claim to fame that under his presidency, we had the highest number of mass shootings under one president that we've ever had in the past. The other one was Bill Clinton. And, you would always see those numbers drop when a Republican candidate took power in office. So far, it hasn't fared real well for Donald Trump because he's had a couple of mass shootings. And one of the things that I really look at here is at one point President Obama had the House and Senate. And during that whole time, when he could have done things to change gun laws, he did not. So it really makes me question what the real point of talking about gun control is. Something else that needs to be stated with this: nobody ever blamed Obama for the mass shootings that occurred, under his presidency. However, Donald Trump and the NRA seem to be catching holy hell because of all this. And, there's once again a call to ban certain types of firearms, what is deemed as assault rifles. And, I guess the thing that you really have to take into consideration here with all this gun control talk, and believe me, I got involved in a discussion group on LinkedIn regarding all this. And, there is such a massive amount of opinions that are going to take place with all this. But one thing I can tell you is you have two types of people out there from the political spectrum, and of course there's more, but you have your liberals, and then you have your conservatives, or Democratic liberal, or conservative Republican, however way you want to word that. You'll have to excuse me, my voice is a little rough, kind of scratchy, but anyway, the left just basically feel that everything should be banned. If they did that, there would be, no mass shootings. There's always these talking points regarding gun control on their side, and some of the statements that some of the senators and congressmen have made that are liberal Democrats, they are just completely so far off base that, they shoot themselves in the foot when they try to push that agenda. I would like to, look at things from the other side of the, perspective. Years ago, they put up gun-free signs in front of school. The gun-free signs, or, school zone, or whatever you want to call it, has been a very controversial subject as well. And honestly, those gun-free zone signs are considered to be an invitation for mass shootings. Now, we've tried it that way for a long time, and it obviously doesn't work. However, what does work, the only way to really stop a bad guy with a gun is a good guy with a gun. And you don't hear those points when it comes to that topic because the media does not show anywhere on TV about this motorcyclist who is packing a gun stops a church shooting, or they just don't air it. And make no mistake about it, any gun violence, it's not good. But every time there's an incident like this, the left wants to go after the legal gun owner, the law-abiding citizen, and they don't want to deal with the criminal element. The criminal element here, and let's just say they're deranged. A lot of them are on psychotropic drugs, and oddly enough, a lot of them are Democrat or registered Democrats. So, on the grand spectrum of this entire topic, something that I think really needs to be pointed out here is, when are people going to wake up and realize that it's not the piece of metal that is actually doing the killing? It's the tool, it's the catalyst, but the person behind the trigger is the one that's committing these mass shootings. And I'm going to say right now, and maybe this seems like it's such a radical idea to people, but I really do believe that teachers should be trained and armed, and signs should be put up at schools, churches, wherever, that, the staff, they're heavily armed. And any attempt to attack our children will result in death for said shooter. I think that is a great narrative, and I know people will not agree with this, but medical reimbursements to Planned Parenthood, which was pointed out to me is only 3% of what Planned Parenthood do. A lot of that funding comes from Medicare. But what nobody understands is, what is Medicare? Where does the funding from Medicare come from? It comes from tax dollars. So essentially, your tax dollars are funding little pieces of metal operated by doctors to commit murder on unborn children. I don't care what side of the fence you're on. I look at it like this. I'm not going to debate gun control with the likes of people who feel it's okay to murder babies. That's my personal opinion. Why don't we take some of those millions of dollars that we use to fund Planned Parenthood, and we start training teachers, or possibly putting veterans, employ them in the school systems to guard the schools. Why is that such a terrible concept? I read here recently that Switzerland has the lowest crime rate in the world. Now, the thing with this is Switzerland mandates that all civilians, all citizens, own a firearm. Now, somebody could come back and say that that's not true, but it is. And on the same topic, Australia banned firearms. And of course, they don't seem to have the gun violence, but what they do have is violence in other forms. Stabbings, bludgeonings, hammers buried in the back of people's heads. It's like I said, maybe it's one victim versus 17. And I'm going to say that anybody who dies by another's hands, that is a very, it's tragic. It really is. But you have all this outrage regarding all this. And then I look at the other things that go on, like the opioid epidemic. And it would appear that there are so many people that just don't care. Or at least the words are there, but the actions to help combat some of these problems don't exist. Call me messed up. So that's where I'm at with things. And, I would apologize for the interruption in programming, from my end. There's been some things that have gone on. I think we're through it, and I think we have it worked out. And I think you'll be hearing a lot more of the big picture. I got a little something that I want to play for you. Sometimes when I do this show, I get phone calls. And 9 times out of 10, these phone calls are there's some sales call or some bullshit where you talk to, somebody from India, if you even take the phone call. But I got one the other day, and it's like, you got to be kidding me. Seriously, dude, you have to be calling me. And I kind of played a game with him. I'm going to play that for you next.
All right, now, mommy, daddy button.
Give me 1 second to take this phone call. Hello?
You've recently been identified by one or more of your lenders as someone who qualifies to have part or possibly all of your debt eliminated due to a violation of the Fair Credit Reporting Act. Press 1 now to speak with someone about eliminating your debt today. Again, press 1 to see if you qualify to have your debt eliminated. Press 2 to be taken off the list.
I'm going to show you people how to handle this.
Thank you for responding to our services. How are you doing today?
Hi, I'm very well. How are you?
I'm good, thanks for asking. I see that you're responding to get a debt reduction on your existing credit card, correct?
Well, yes, it's something I'm interested in. I'm also, why don't you tell me what this is about?
Well, this call is in regards to get you qualify for the lower interest rate program. We have been monitoring your profile for past 6 to 8 months, and we found that you pay your bills on time. In fact, sometimes you try to pay more than the minimum, correct?
Oh, absolutely.
but still the interest rate you are getting charged on the credit card is more than 6%, and I'm sure you know that, right?
Yes, I do.
So now for the qualification purposes, on which of the major credit card do you owe the highest balance on? Would that be a Visa card or a MasterCard, the one with the highest balance?
I'd have to take a look and see what the highest balance is.
And how much do you think you carry the balance in total, sir, on all of the cards that you have?
Well, to be honest with you, I really don't carry a balance on them. I pay my bills every month and pay them off early. So I really don't have a balance.
And what about any store card, any line of credit, any student loan?
No, not really. Basically, the information I wanted to get was, I'd like to know, how come you guys are calling a do not call number for this? Because I absolutely have no fucking interest in talking to you people at all about this. This is a unwarranted phone call for me. And this is being broadcasted on the radio right now. Okay? So, thank you. Thank you. Bye-bye. Unfucking-believable. Can you believe that? I'm in the middle of a broadcast and I get a phone call for this crap. So, okay. Hello, I'd like to help you. Oh, you're going to help me from India or wherever the fuck you're from, right? You know what? Kick rock. That's the best way I can put it. All right, there we go again. Okay. So, here's the last point I'm going to talk about regarding, what we discussed earlier in the program about gun control and all this crazy stuff that, you see in the media. And a good friend pointed this out to me. Several years ago, let's just say when we were kids, I'm kind of like a product of the 70s and 80s. And something that, was brought to my attention was like, my buddy asked me, he said, what was one of your favorite shows that had to do with cars when you were a kid? And I told him, that I used to watch Dukes of Hazzards. Used to watch Knight Rider once in a while. David Hasselhoff, Kit Car, Knight Industries 2000. Yeah, that was always kind of cool. But anyway, his point with all this was, he said, now when you started driving, what did you drive like? And I said, I was a wild man behind the wheel. I used to do all sorts of crazy shit. And I said that crazy shit did include jumping a car, sliding cars, high rates of speed, just doing a lot of stupid shit. And then he asked me, he says, no, even go back further. He said, did you used to, watch Evel Knievel, do his jumps and stuff? And I said, yeah, that guy was badass. I even had the Evel Knievel motorcycle and the Evel Knievel rocket cycle. Those were toys that, I had as a child. And then he pointed out the, question about, riding bicycles, and I said, oh God, we used to jump them and do all sorts of crazy things with them. So in addition to that, it kind of, hold on, it looks like I'm going to be fucked with here for a second. Yeah, I got a kiss. I got a kiss today. So that's kind of nice. Thank you. Thank you very much. So, his point with this was, he says, now where did you see all this stuff? And I told him, I said, you'd see it on TV. So the TV, has played a, big part of my childhood. The things that I used to do, you had influencers. And And he asked me, he says, did you guys have video games? And I said, well, when I was, I don't know, late 18, 19, maybe 20 years old, I remember, the Ataris coming out, and you had, Space Invaders and Missile Command, and, it kind of involved into Pac-Man and things like that. Favorite game, of all, during the video game era was Punch-Out. And not that crappy thing that Nintendo had on whatever unit that thing was. I used to love going into the video arcade and spending a quarter and boxing, with Glass Joe and Piston Pete and, Bald Bull. These were all the characters. And, you just get in there and you learn how to move the game. And I used to put a quarter in that game and play it for, at least 45 minutes every time. So, he's right. I mean, to get back on the subject, he was absolutely right, because our generation, we didn't have video games and things like that to play. Now you fast forward to the last, let's say, 15, 20 years, and we'll be modest about that. There are all these first shooter games, Grand Theft Auto, all that thing with you fight the undead all the time, Resident Evil. And, there used to be Deus Ex and the game Hitman and, all these computer games and stuff. And I kind of look at it and I think, holy crap, he's right. People don't, they don't watch so much TV, but the kids nowadays play all these video games. And in and amongst all these mass shootings, he said, don't you think that maybe the video games and the breakdown of, the desensitizing of people, there's blood spatter in these games. There's, just all this crazy stuff all the time. And our kids are playing these games at a very young age. They start, 5, 6 years old if parents allow them to do so. And then all of a sudden, you've got mass shootings. So instead of blaming the NRA or Donald Trump, parents, why don't you guys look at yourselves? Because you're the ones that have allowed your kids to play these games. And you guys have created this. This is a society problem. This has nothing to do with pieces of metal. It really doesn't. And that's the sheer ludicrousness of this entire gun control debate. They talk about putting tougher laws on the book. Well, the thing is, criminals don't follow laws. And, this generation of kids, this generation of Tide Pod eating, man bun, skinny jean, all these things that I look at and laugh about, I can't really laugh about, because you almost have to take these things more seriously than ever before. Largely in part because this is where your mass shooters and things are coming from. A lot of people they'll disagree with this, but, I had mentioned earlier, doing away with the signs out in front of schools that say gun-free zones. They don't work. Clearly. But there'll always be these arguments from people who don't think with common sense that this is a gun problem. We have too many guns out there. And you know what? Maybe in some ways we do. But the bottom line with everything is, parents, you guys have allowed your children to become what they are. They get to a certain age, and you can't control them anymore. You can't do anything with them. What's the youngest mass shooter been? I'm asking that question legitimately, on a legitimate point here. I really haven't looked it up. I haven't had time to look it up. But I'm sure, the age ranges are going to be, between 13 and maybe, let's say on the high side, 40, 45. we got a real breakdown, in morals and ethics and value of human life. So I'm suggesting that, we start putting armed guards in school, arming teachers, training them. Some teachers would be completely opposed to that. I'm sure of that. And it's not like it's going to be something that's mandatory. I don't think a prerequisite to be an educator or school teacher should be, you have to be trained and firearm certified to become a teacher. That's not the point of all this. The point of all this is we have children dying because of crazy ass, evil intended individuals that in one way, shape, or form, whether they do it by gun or other methods, are intent on doing harm to others. And they will find a way. Australia was a good point. All the stabbings that go on in there. And now they talk about banning knives. It's like this little snot-nosed generation that's pulling all this crap. The people that, the entitlement generation, as many people call it. What nobody really sees here, or nobody's taking a look at, is the fact that, they've all gotten trophies, for participating. These are the same kids that get behind the wheel of cars and have no regards for the speed limit. Speed limit 65, and these people are going 80. And what's even worse is when we talk about laws, breaking the speed limit is breaking the law. They've put laws on the books regarding texting and driving. You're not supposed to do it. Did that stop the kids? Certainly does not. Drugs, heroin, it's illegal. It's felony to have it. Laws all over the books regarding this stuff. Did that work? No. But the liberals will will basically say, stick to the point of gun control. No, why should I? Why should I? Your mindset, your way of thinking does not work. Put armed guards or train teachers that are willing to do so. Train them with firearms and put them in the schools. Guarantee mass shootings will drop. Statistics in Israel, 1944, mass shooting. Teachers were immediately armed and trained firearms. They have had 2 mass shootings since 1944, which resulted in both shooters being shot and killed by teachers. And the damages, the victims, were minimal. It works. Why can't they see that here in this country? Good case in point. Last Friday, I was in Rochester, and I just turned on to 441. Now, I don't know this for a fact, but what I witnessed was really something else. I watched a gentleman in a minivan swerve into the left-hand lane and head-on collided with a gentleman that was either a contractor or worked for Spectrum Communications. And myself and a woman that was obviously traveling in the other direction, we were really the first on the scene. And I'm telling you, we busted our asses trying to get the door on this truck open. And we finally did just before first responders showed up. And I was asked to assist in removing the gentleman out of the small pickup truck, the Spectrum guy, and I did. The first thing that I noted when I was helping, he had blood on his legs, and I knew he had compound fractures. Both of his legs were broken. Very sad, but I suspect text messaging was going on here in the driver of the minivan. I don't know that for sure. Wasn't disclosed, but he survived, thank God. But the gentleman who was in the pickup truck, his name was Jason Covey. He was a 33-year-old man on his way to work from Williamson, Rochester way. He's dead. He died. So all I'm saying here, people, is your laws, your logic, they don't work. This is twice now I've seen people die in front of me. It does not set well. It does not set well. It's not something that, you really just randomly accept. It's a very, very difficult thing to see. And in this case, it was unnecessary. Somebody screwed up. Something happened. But a man lost his life today. Lost his life last Friday because of this. So I'm not about to argue gun control or debate my Second Amendment rights, which are valid in a court of law, with a bunch of people that feel that murdering millions of children each year through Planned Parenthood and paying for that with tax dollars, it's just not going to happen. It's a moot point. I'm not saying that a woman, to be clear on this, I'm not saying that a woman does not have a right to choose. She does. But not at the expense of taxpayer dollars. And just remember something, ladies and guys. If you are going to have intercourse, coitus, whatever you want to call it, and you do not take steps to protect yourself from pregnancy, that is your responsibility. It is not the taxpayer's responsibility. And it is not the taxpayer's responsibility to pay for your birth control. It's real simple. If you don't want children and you do not have condoms or you're not on birth control, then don't fuck. It's that simple. So people were at about time for this show, and I believe it's time for me to step out and accomplish a few things. I'm glad to be back. Certainly hope that this program is heard, listened, well thought of. Next week, I'm hoping that I will have some content regarding to more things that I'm interested in, but it's very difficult when you see so much crap on TV regarding the political playing field. And, I know there's two sides to this entire debate, but, once again, I'm sitting here watching, the liberal Democrats try to tear down a president who gave up his $1 billion lifestyle to run this country, to turn this country around. And all in all, besides all the stupid things he said, I think he's doing well. All right, that's all I got for this week. You can hear me again next Tuesday at 8 p.m. And let's see what kind of crap I can cook up for you next week. God bless. I'm out.